What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the GolfMagic channel and welcome back to another equipment review video. Now you're joining me on a dull and grey day outside, but luckily I am in GraysGolf in Lewes and I'm testing a club that's been highly requested across this YouTube channel. I've got the brand new Srixon ZX7 Players Iron with me today, and what I'm going to do is first just talk about how it looks, the technology behind it, and then put it through its paces on the GC quad and see what numbers I get compared to the other Players Irons. This will be interesting as we've already done the top 5 Players Irons of 2020, but I had a feeling this might jump into that bracket. Let's get right into the video. So first things first, let's talk about the looks of this Srixon ZX7 iron. Now, I'm sure you're aware, but Srixon released 2 irons in 2020, the ZX7 and the ZX5. ZX5 being more towards the mid to high handicapper range, ZX7 being more to the low handicapper range. And you can really tell by looking down on this club that this is for a lower handicap player. If I had to compare it in terms of the top line, just looking down at address, it's quite similar to the TaylorMade P790. So if you've not seen that before, make sure you check out a previous video that we've done a review on it, but it's still got somewhat of a top line. It's not completely like a muscle back. It's got a little bit of forgiveness that you can tell. But then going into the actual looks of the club, Srixon have really outdone themselves here. Srixon Golf itself is not one of the front runners for golf clubs, but I'm sure with this iron here, they're going to jump right to that. You can see that they've got a torque cavity involved in the club, but the finish is still really nice to look at, which you really do want in a player's iron. Now, a review I did previously of the Cobra King Tour Mim, I said that I wasn't really that positive about the design of the club. This is a little bit better. I still do prefer the TaylorMade P770 and the TaylorMade P7MB MC. So this does still have a little bit of a way to go for me to think that the design-wise is up there, but design is something that's always a personal preference. I'm just quite fickle and I think this is still a stunning club, but there are other clubs that look a little bit nicer. But the most important thing is how the club performs. So before we get into that, let's talk about the technology of this golf club. Now, the first bit of technology that I want to talk about in the Srixon ZX7 irons is the torque position cavity in this club. Now, you might not notice it, but I'll put it up on the screen now that you can see they position the mass onto the main portion of this iron, which means that off-center strikes still get the same ball speed and you get a really soft feel of impact with a little bit of forgiveness. As well as this, Srixon have produced progressive grooves throughout the 8-iron to pitching wedge, which mean they are sharper, narrower and deeper for a more consistent result and more spin on those scoring irons. And finally, Srixon have put tungsten in the toe of the mid-irons from 4 to 7 iron for increased MOI and stability for those off-center strikes. So there's quite a lot of technology to take in here for this club. So what I'm going to do right now is test it on the GC quad and see how it performs. Let's get right into it. Right guys, so I've just had a hit of the Srixon ZX7 iron at the launch monitor here at GraysGolf. Now I'm hitting a 7 iron with a NS Pro stiff shaft, standard length, standard setup, everything, so an exact club that you could try at any sort of pro shop. So what are my thoughts of this iron? Now, we've held off reviewing this for a little bit of time as I wanted to get the exact right environment to give every single bit of data that we can to you. And I've heard a lot of positive reviews about this club, and I'm going to say exactly the same. I was kind of indifferent for this club because as much as the design is okay, I was just thinking it's just going to be another standard player's iron. I'm not going to feel that much different about it compared to any of the ones I've tried before. It's not actually going to touch into the top 5, and I was actually wrong in this. There was a lot of people that were saying how amazing this club was, and I'm going to have to agree. I'm tempted to put this at number 1 of the player's irons that I've tried in 2020. The feel that you get when you strike it out the middle with that torque cavity in it, I've actually never felt anything like that this year. We've had the P770, we've had the JPX91 Tour, which all feel great, but the actual response that you get at the middle of the club face with this is second to none. I'd love to talk to Srixon a little bit more as to how they did this, because the results that I got were, again, top class for 2020. I'll put the data up on the screen now. As you can see, the data that I've got is pretty much the best that I've ever got from a 7 iron. The club was carrying about 185 to 186 yards and then finishing around the 192 to 193 yard mark. The spin rate was fluctuating a little bit between high 5s to low 6s. I would like that a little bit higher, but if I got custom fitted for this, I'm sure I would get either a little bit longer club, a different shaft, and it will be perfect. But nevertheless, my dispersion was the best I've ever seen it. Here at GraysGolf, I put up an 190-yard green and I was hitting the green more or less every single time. I wasn't offline by anything more than 5 to 10 yards, which for a 7-iron at that distance, I'm blown away by. Now, I will mention a lot of these clubs, if you compare them to the likes of the TaylorMade P770, the Mizunos as well, this 7-iron comes in at 32 degrees. But the P770, which is 33 degrees, and then obviously the JPX 91 Tour is a bit higher than that, I think at 36 degrees. So that could be why I'm getting such optimal distance with that, but still I'm getting amazing dispersion, and the overall all-around performance of this club still is something that I haven't seen quite yet this year. So who would I recommend this club to in today's current golfing market? Who do you think should use this club? What handicap range? To be honest, I'm a decent ball striker. I play with single figures, but I think there's a lot of opportunity here for people who are a little bit high handicapper to hit this as well. On the launch motor, I hit a lot of shots where as soon as I hit the ball, I grimace, thinking that's immediately out the heel, which I'm really fond of. I love having that instant response that you can get out of an iron. But there's a fine line between getting that instant response and then having your results weaken because of it. What I had here was me hitting a shot pretty significantly out of the heel and it's still going 185 yards, which I was so surprised by. I thought it was going to go about 150 yards and it was going to be a pretty poor shot. And that's what you kind of expect out of a player's iron. But with the Srixon ZX7, it seems that wherever you hit it out of the face, you still get pretty similar results, but you still get that response that you know where you're hitting it, which is exactly what the people who have decent ball striking want. So even if you're not the best ball striker, but playoff kind of, let's say playoff 15, I'd say I'd give this a go, because the dispersion that I was getting and the responsiveness and feel, I think can still be a case for someone who's off like 15 or 16 or so. Because you can still hit it out of certain parts of the club face, not hit it out of the middle every single time. I definitely don't do that. But you can still get extremely good results. So there's no reason why I wouldn't recommend this to someone who's off that mid-handicap range. These irons come in an RRP of £149.50 per club, which is around £1,000, just a bit more of that for a 7-iron set. So a pretty fair price, a little bit cheaper than the TaylorMades and around the same price as the Mizuno JPX 921 Tour. Now, moving on to the Mizuno JPX 921 Tour, I'll be really interested to see how this club performs against this in a head-to-head. So, if we get 50 likes on this video, I'll put this Srixon ZX7 iron against the Mizuno JPX 921 Tour and see how I get on. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video today, and thank you for recommending me to try out the Srixon ZX7 iron. It's really fun to use and it may be a club I'm putting in the bag very, very soon. If you enjoyed this video today, make sure to leave a like and comment down below if you've used this club before and how you got on. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you hit that button down below so you can keep up to date with all our equipment news, tour news and general challenges. I'll see you guys at the next video.